Let's face it, if you are faced in a violent encounter and you can't settle it with 5 shots of ammunition, it's probably just not your day. How many times have you heard that over the years? Growing up in the 70s and 80s, that was something I heard kind of often. If you can't settle it in 5 shots or 6 shots, you're in a bad part of town. You're in a place you don't need to be. Guys, it's Jerry up here at Hilltop Firearms Training Center in Dover, Tennessee. Thank you for watching. So today I wanted to talk about that very topic. Is a 5-shot revolver or a revolver that holds 6, is that adequate enough for personal protection as a primary carry gun? Well, depends, doesn't it? Depends on the situation. I want to talk a little bit about the pros and then the cons of, and we're going to focus primarily on our small frame revolvers like this right here, this little Smith 442. It's a J frame size. It holds 5 rounds of .38 special. Pros would be it's easily maintained, doesn't require a lot of effort to learn how to use the gun, small, compact, lightweight, can take a lot of abuse and neglect. You can pretty much load that thing, drop it in a drawer, and as long as it isn't getting a lot of moisture, say, in there, or a lot of humid conditions and doesn't rust, you could probably pick that gun up in 10 years and it would probably fire. Whereas, semi-autos seem to take just a little more attention, a little more skill, a little more maintenance. But you have to think about how a semi-auto has come from, say, the 70s to where we are today in the aspect of reliability. Well, some of the cons really is just going to be about 2 to 3 things that I can think of that would basically be a negative in regards to a small frame revolver. Capacity, of course. In the best interest of anyone that carries a firearm for personal protection, 5 rounds is really not a lot of ammunition. Now, people say, in statistics like police shootings and FBI statistics, you hear a lot of mixed reviews where people say, well, it's usually, no more than 1 to 3 rounds are fired during a lethal encounter. Okay, sure, maybe, and within just a few feet, arm's length, most violent encounters, occur. Okay, I've heard that as well. But then again, you have to think about how much society has changed over the last, say, 2 decades. How much more violent criminals have become in our society, how well armed a lot of them are. So, another con to me would be, well, even if, say, I needed to fire all 5 rounds at an armed assailant, intent on, say, causing me great bodily harm or death, and suddenly my gun was empty, it takes a little longer to reload, say, this 5-shot revolver, even if you have like a little speed strip in your pocket to where if you have the luxury of getting to a place just for a second to where you could drop these rounds in there. Some people carry speed loaders, which lets you put 5 rounds in, twist it, boom, you got it. But generally speaking, revolvers are a little more difficult to reload under pressure than, say, a semi-automatic where you simply slide that magazine up that mag well and either close the slide, re-rack it, whatever it is. So you have capacity, you have the time it takes to reload it. One of the pros would be, say, they talk about how armed encounters happen within just a few feet, or it becomes a contact thing where you literally are hands-on with a person and you only have, say, 1 free hand. You don't have to worry about your slide being impeded to where you could stick that revolver up to somebody and shoot them and probably possibly get at least another shot off unless they grabbed the gun itself. So, close proximity shooting of revolvers just seldom jam. They can jam, they can bind up where the cylinder does not rotate. But generally speaking, if you get a click, pull the trigger again, you're gonna probably get a bang pretty soon. Where semi-autos can be taken out of battery, even, 1/16 of an inch could cause it to not. But you gotta think, how bad of a day is it? So, generally speaking, 5 shots, a small frame revolver, hopefully hopefully, would be adequate in most lethal force encounters. On the other hand, think of it this way. Think of things we've seen over the last several years that have been on the news. Active shooters, for instance, have become very much a household term, have they not? Now, I'm not talking even about, say, 1999's Columbine. Let's flash forward to 2007's Virginia Tech. He was armed with 2 semi-automatic pistols, a Glock 19 with a lot of magazines that held 15 each, and a Walther P22 that held 10 rounds. He was able to walk from classroom to classroom shooting folks. Had someone been armed with one, say, 5-shot J-frame Smith, may have been a totally different outcome of that shooting. However, we can also flash forward to other types of shootings where someone is armed with, say, a rifle, maybe an AK or an AR-15. Would you feel adequately armed to go up against an assailant armed with a rifle, say with a 30-round magazine and spare magazines on their person, and you have 5 shots with a very limited sight radius? Not the most accurate, right? Would you feel adequately armed? I don't think many of us would. That being said, isn't it better than picking up a chair and hoping to hit the guy when he comes around the corner? Certainly, any gun a person carries is better than no gun. But in our ever-increasing violent society, is a 5-shot revolver enough? So we can even take this a step further. On a regular basis, whenever I'm teaching a class, primarily say the Tennessee Handgun Carry Permit course, I'll inquire, throughout the day, interacting with the students. I'll say, well, what do you plan to carry? Or what do you plan? Oh, I'm going to carry a Smith & Wesson Shield because I've seen an article and it's a really good, oh yes, excellent pistol. Single stack, 7 in the magazine on the 9mm, comes with an 8-round extended magazine, 1 in the chamber. Are you going to carry a spare magazine? A lot of times people don't. Well, I carry a Glock 19, it holds 15 rounds. I don't think I'm going to need to shoot 15 rounds. Something to think about. You've already made the decision to carry a gun. What is so wrong with carrying 1 more spare magazine in the event you needed it? Would you rather go up a guy armed with an AR-15 and say a Glock 19 with 15 in the mag, 1 in the chamber, and a spare 15-round magazine? Or would you rather go up against somebody, say, with a Smith & Wesson Shield that holds 7+1 and you decided you didn't need to carry that magazine for that day? Here's a little story. In 2000, and I believe it was, once again, it was 2007, and I may be wrong on the dates, but in Ogden, Utah, an off-duty police officer is at a mall. He's eating dinner with his wife. He's armed with, he's an off-duty police officer, but he's armed with a single stack Kimber 1911. And he hears gunfire at the mall. And he looks around, he's like, call 911. He's got to go do something. The whole time he's thinking, boy, I hope I don't get shot if any of the officers that show up and, uniformed police see me and they think I'm the shooter. Long story short, he's able to keep that shooter busy, but he's not hitting him. At the end of it all, Salt Lake City PD guys got there and they deal with the shooter. The shooter had killed 5 people at that mall. The off-duty police officer, Ken Hammond, revealed later that he was down to 2 rounds in his pistol and he did not hit the guy 1 time and he did not have a reload on him. So he was almost out of ammunition. He said, we exchanged gunfire, I couldn't hit the guy, but I kept him busy. Now guys, you need to think about that. Wouldn't a spare magazine could have meant life or death for this guy had those other police officers not shown up? If you're down to 2 rounds and you haven't hit the guy yet, what about this? What if it's multiple attackers? We see increasingly how as things get a little worse with violent criminals, not only are they adequately armed, but most of the time they are armed and they have accomplices. They have backup guys. So now you say you have 2 high-capacity guns against one armed responsible gun owner with 5 shots. Is that a fair fight? Now, while people say, well, my goodness, if you practice enough, you can put those rounds precisely where they need to go. When you are full of adrenaline and people are moving, because people don't stand still and let you shoot them, is 5 shots enough? Now, this video I wanted to post not to start arguments. I really sincerely want to hear what you think, the pros, the cons, what you carry. Do you feel it's adequate? Personally, if I was going to carry a revolver like this little 5-shot, I probably would carry some spare magazines. I'm sorry, in this case, a spare speed strip. But think about it, it takes longer to reload than it would be to simply put a magazine into the pistol. And the flip side of this argument is, like, I carry a Glock 19 a lot of the times. I've been carrying Glock since 1995. People will say, well, you got 15 in the mag, 1 in the chamber. Why would you need a spare magazine? What if I have some kind of a catastrophic malfunction and I need to strip that magazine out, clear the gun, put the mag back in? There could be several things where maybe I just need to drop that magazine, grab the magazine that's in my pouch or in my pocket. I can get to it quicker. Or now I'm fumbling with a magazine, trying to clear the gun. See, there's a lot of things that can fall into place and kind of add to the dilemma, if that makes sense. The other thing to consider is, you talk to people that have been in gunfights. They never complained about, I wish I didn't have all this extra ammunition. If you carry a semi-auto, you really need to carry a spare magazine. It's kind of like the spare tire on your car. You don't really hope you don't ever have to need it, but when you need it, it sure is nice to have, isn't it? I think sometimes we get complacent. And where I'm going to end this video is, I meet people for the past 11 years that will say, come up here, get their permit. And then I'll see them in a few months and I'll maybe run into them at the local store and I'm like, hey, you still carrying? Nah, I left it home. I'm just here in town. I don't really, I was 5 minutes from my house. Most accidents occur when you're getting close to home, don't they? People can take a cross-country car trip and for some reason, they can go halfway across the United States, but within a few miles of their house, they get into a wreck. Don't let that complacency that leads to comfort be the determining factor in maybe your own survival. I hope this video gets you to think a little bit about some of those key points. Let me know what you think, guys. As always, I appreciate you for watching, and I will see you on the range.